Hey everyone, welcome to the Hollywood Critics Association Bel-Air Aftershow. I'm your host, Nikki Fowler, along with my co-host, John Rocha. Hey
Hello,
John.
everyone. How you doing? How you doing, Nikki? Good to see you.
Great, good to see you. So we're going to be breaking down episodes 4 and 5 of the dramatic reinterpretation of Bel-Air, of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, the old sitcom, which is now a new, fresh, dramatic reinterpretation on Peacock, airing each week. So, spoiler alert: if you haven't seen episodes 1 through 5, click out of our video, watch the episodes, then head back over and let us know what you thought of the show, of our review. Like and subscribe, and leave us comments, leave us some feedback, because we'd love to find out what you thought of the show and also our review. So I'd like to actually jump into a recap of what really got us here to episode 5. And as everyone knows, this is again the dramatic reinterpretation of the original Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. We're getting the origin story of how Will went from Philly to landing in Bel-Air. Will gets into a fight on the basketball courts back home and almost catches a gun charge protecting himself from a local gang member, Rashad, before his Uncle Phil steps in to clean up the mess. Will's mom, Vi, ships Will off to Bel-Air to live with the Banks family. So we have Uncle Phil, we have Aunt Viv, Hillary, Carlton, Jeffrey, and Ashley, all the characters that we know and love from the 90s, which comes with some major drama. And after death threats, Will is hiding out from the gangs back home, and he's suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder from the interaction with the police back in Philly. And also, he's struggling to fit into Carlton's private school, which has caused rifts and even a physical altercation between Carlton and Will. There's some planted drugs floating to frame Will, and Will has also been hitting on Carlton's ex-girlfriend, Lisa, which, among other things, is causing Carlton to abuse drugs. He's dealing with anxiety. He's feeling completely left out from his family, with Will kind of taking over his life. So we've got Aunt Viv also wanting to pursue her past love of being an artist, and Uncle Phil is running for district attorney. Hillary, after dropping out of college, is wanting to make it as an influencer and running into some major roadblocks in mainstream media and on being accepted for her content as a Black creator. And we ended episode 3 with Rashad seeing that Will is hiding in Bel-Air after seeing him win a basketball game on social media. So we jump right into episode 4, which is called Canvas, and the synopsis basically reads: the Banks family rallies around Uncle Phil to ramp up his campaign. Will's past starts to catch up to him, and he finds help in an unexpected place. And in this episode, we see Hillary and Aunt Viv still having static on her life goals. Jazz and Hillary are having a moment. Will and Carlton are surprisingly getting along in this episode. Wealth and conservatism versus community is a major theme, and Aunt Viv is trying to help Phil connect with voters to say what he really feels. Ashley is also sneaking out at 12 to possibly see a crush, and Rashad is now dead, and Jeffrey may have something to do with it. So that was a mouthful.
Yeah,
lots going on. So what were your initial thoughts on episode 4?
It's so funny the way they've laid everything out dramatically. You're wondering, okay, where are we going to go with this? Who's going to play central parts depending on the subplots that are going on within the overall storyline in this show? And I love the fact that we had a little more of an active Jeffrey, we've seen, the Batman's about to come out. This idea of Alfred always kind of being there to help the Batman. I mean, Jeffrey in essence has become their Alfred in a way that he wasn't in the original comedic interpretation. Not that he wasn't always there with advice, but the fact that he's here possibly involved with the death of Rashad. We find out that he paid Rashad off $10,000 and Rashad wanted more. That's an interesting twist on so many levels. So what we're seeing here step by step is that Hillary is kind of building herself out. Carlton is trying to figure out how to deal with Will, and Will with Carlton. And yes, they come to terms because each of them has that carrot on the stick. He wants to go to the Grand Prix in Monaco. Will wants Trey to come visit. And then we have Aunt Viv kind of jumping into her or opening the door to her painting again, while Phil finds his voice in a powerful way at a skating rink because of Will's actions of inviting all these voters to come and hang out at the skating rink, which was supposed to be a donors only exclusive fundraising event. Now Phil is put on the spot and talks about defunding the police. So that is a lot to consume in one episode. And I feel like this is the episode where they said, okay, you enjoyed the first few episodes. Now we're going here, and we're going here powerfully. So we are, come along with us to see what we're going to do with all these storylines. Nikki, I mean, my head was turning left and right the whole time as I was watching this particular episode. I think this is where the episode where they go to the next level with this show and the intentions of this show to address topical issues of the day, both social justice and otherwise.
Absolutely. I was wondering too, with Rashad coming out of the picture, how are we going, how are they going to keep viewers glued? And they've got the formula because there's so much going on. I'm just going to show a quick photo of Jeffrey with this, the $10,000, payoff that you mentioned. And, it just doesn't work. When you give people money to go away, it doesn't always, He basically finds out that Uncle Phil is very rich and they want more, they want more. So we also found out some details about Lisa. She divulges to Will that her mom died of lupus, and also that there was this connection between Lisa and her mom and Aunt Viv. So do you think there's going to be some major things playing out with her? We do find out that her dad, is chief of police. Right. But do you think that, there's more to come with her character with these little tidbits they keep giving us? Yeah.
One of the brilliant things about shows is that when you go episode per episode, it feels like one character has the high ground, and then one episode later, the other character that was on low ground now has the high ground, or that character who just had the high ground earlier. So I love the switches and the changes and dynamics that are happening throughout this series here. And having Lisa come in and kind of drop this hammer about her mom, and then her dad is chief of police, who ends up later, and that's my friend Joseph Holt, who ends up later having that moment of defunding the police at the skating rink. And of course, we see more of him in episode 5. So I think this is going to play itself out, especially, because we're also going to talk about episode 5, what happens with Will's mom, her reaction to things about Will coming back to Philadelphia, because now that Rashad is gone, he can come back. So what that leads to. So I think they're doing a great job of just laying the seeds, laying the groundwork. We still haven't gotten to the issue, or the main issue that happened between Viv and her sister, Will's mom. What happened there? So the fact that they're just teasing stuff and laying it down step by step, they're taking their time, because these reveals are going to come, and I think affect emotionally how you care about these characters and how you evaluate these characters. So I love it. I think definitely we're getting more coming.
Yeah, you mentioned in our last review of 1 through 3, you said, you feel there's something there, that we don't know between Aunt Viv and Vi. Her name's Vi, right?
Right, Vi, yes.
Yeah, Vi. So this episode 2 gets really political. I have to show this image of Carlton, because this face on Carlton, Ollie is just playing this role so well. But this face sums up, basically Carlton's reaction, like, you can't say these things. They're canvassing for Uncle Phil to get voters. They made this deal where, Carlton wants to go to Monaco to the Grand Prix. So he's like, I'm going to get along with Will. We're going to get you some voters. And they're just out there. But this gets really heavy politically. And, they're bringing up Blue Lives Matter. He's telling Will that, you can't say they're racist. You can't say these things. They both have a self-interest here. They both want something. Will wants Trey to visit. Carlton wants to go to Monaco. So, Carlton's kind of calling him out, like, you're just saying whatever you want to get votes, So what did you think of that whole dynamic, and how far they went politically with it?
Well, I used to host a show on my own YouTube channel called Impolite Truths. It was a political show. We dived into everything for about a couple of years. So this kind of stuff is up in my wheelhouse. Absolutely. So seeing the differences here, and let's talk truths, right? Within the Black community, you're seeing there's people like Candace Owens and there's people like Maxine Waters. There's two different interpretations of how they see the political spectrum here. And Carlton certainly representing a segment of the populace that believes that, hey, Blue Lives Matter, this is important, and it doesn't matter what your skin color is. It's a matter about what you accomplished in the world. Whereas Will's being a little more real here and being like, hey, you're a politician. You got to say what you got to say to get people to sign, to be a part of you, because you're going to make real change once you get there, but say what you got to say once you get there. So it's an interesting dynamic developing here. And it lays the groundwork too, where Carlton is very much about, he's a very regimented guy about the principles. He's not a free thinker necessarily. It seems like he's very regimented. This is the way it's supposed to be. This is the way things are done. But he also has a condescension to him, an arrogance to him. And you see that when he first talked to Will in the first couple episodes. And then, of course, here in this episode, when he's talking to the voters, he's talking down to the voters. He's dismissing them. He's calling them fools for feeling one way about the situation and what have you. And Will's the one that's kind of having to kind of steer him away. But they do come to some kind of understanding with each other amidst the turmoil of their differing political views, which I thought was a nice little message to throw in here that, hey, just because you disagree doesn't mean you can't find common ground somewhere in your interactions.
Yeah. And he also calls him C, which was, I think, a nod to the original series. They're getting along and, you're just kind of looking like, is this really happening? What's going to happen with the show if these two are getting along? So, and Carlton, he uses that line, like, these people,
these people.
These people. So, again, Ollie's doing a great job with that role. And, he has the essence of Carlton. There were just scenes from the last show where, Carlton has that same conservative attitude, but there's just this twist with Ollie playing this role and just how they've written it. So it's really, really interesting to see how you have the essence of the old characters, but it's just coming with this fresh newness.
Yeah, and Nikki, look, both of us are part of a section of this country, was part of it with the ethnicity in the Black crowd, in the Latino crowd, this idea that we're monoliths. I love that the show is snapping that in half and not saying, just because they're Black, they feel this way, or just because they're a certain ethnicity, they feel this way. It's about exploring the different points of views and having these interactions. Are they going deep? No, it's not that kind of show, but they're going deep enough to show you that there are these divisions and people need to kind of readjust their points of views of how to deal with these communities. More and more, we're becoming vocal in the voting landscape and important in the voting landscape, and catering to us is no longer a given. Politicians have to make these decisions, have to make these adjustments and these attitude changes so they can get as many people on board from those groups. So I think it's great to have this kind of put in here. It's real,
Yeah, it's real. The conversations have to be had. Absolutely. You said it best. So I want to jump into Hillary. I feel there's just some really important messaging here where, she's wanting to move into this influencer house. She's trying to push her career ahead. And I thought this scene was really important with her discussing her platform and her engagement with these brands and these partners. She has this large following, as we're learning from the show, but she's still getting this pushback from the brands, saying, would you partner with a white influencer? Or, is your content, appealing to mainstream, or is it just for Black people? And this conversation is so important because Black creators get this all the time, where they could have the largest following. This happens in real life, and they can see, people with smaller followings getting the being able to monetize on their content. So it's really important. I felt that they put that in there to really show the struggles of Black content creators, where sometimes you're just not getting the opportunity. And there's just all these questions, because it's just kind of seen as foreign, but Black culture has been mainstream culture from the very beginning. And it's good that we're making progress and we're seeing the change, but just love that they put that in there. And also, she's having a moment with Jazz at the record store. I love this scene. She's able to help him, get followers and actually get on Instagram. And, that is actually what catapulted her to become a part of the influencer house. They saw what she did with, I believe that's what happened. They saw what she did with that record store. And I also like the dynamic of, Jazz and Hillary in the old series. Jazz was just running after Hillary. Hillary wanted nothing to do with him, which was hilarious, But I love that this is like these two equals. He's running a record store. He's, doing Uber. He's got all of these different money, streams of, revenue. And then Hillary's doing her thing. So I don't know if you caught that look towards the end of the record shop where there's some chemistry going on. So, you know, we may be seeing more of Hillary and Carlton, some juicy details there. But Ashley, you know, big surprise here where you know, she sneaks off and she's going to see her gaming friends, and there's Lucia she's looking to see. So what did you think of that? You know, she's 12 in this series.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to touch on the Hillary thing real quick and then swing back to Ashley, certainly I love what they're doing with the equalizing of their characters, right? You're right. In the original series, because Jazz, you know, DJ Jazzy Jeff is, you know, he's got that energy that's not really the Hillary energy that they had in that original series. So it made sense. And it was fun for comedy that this, you know, this guy from Philly would be chasing this rich girl and all of that. And they didn't have their moments of connecting, but it was mostly him just chasing or whatever. But this, I love this change because Jazz is a guy of the world now. He has to have multiple revenue streams to survive. You have to do what you got to do. He hustles. And not in a bad way. He's hustling in a good way to get what he needs to get done here. But he has a hole. He has a kind of blind spot, and that's social media. And she comes in and does a great job. It's a great way of giving more and more character work to Hillary as well, for you to understand and care about her and see that she's actually aware of things. She's the potential of Hillary. I love that they were showing all of that with her. But that influencer house, I'm so glad she's I'm like nervous about that influencer house, that it unsettles me, but whatever. That's what kids are doing nowadays. We have them all, or they have them all over LA. You know that, Nikki, it's insane. But then swinging back to Ashley, I love that they're doing this. Remember we talked about in the last few episodes, like, what's Ashley? Where's Ashley doing? What's her storyline? Well, bam, they drop it. They hint at it here at the end of episode 4, and then really dive into the conversation she has with Hillary in episode 5. And I think it's bold. It is bold. A 12-year-old. I mean, Nikki, you and I are from the time when sitcoms did not, I mean, adult characters in sitcoms didn't even talk about this, or in dramedies, to have a 12-year-old be talking about this, how we've progressed as a society in the last 20 years in our entertainment is incredible. And that moment itself is an indication of that.
Yeah, definitely. It's 2022, and we just had the first same-sex couple featured on Essence the other day. I believe it was Essence.
Right.
But yeah, so it's a sign of you know, the times and progress. And yeah, you know, at 12, in my, you know, when I was growing up, I wasn't allowed to have any crushes. So, but yeah, I love the dynamic of her, you know, speaking her truth and just acknowledging how she's feeling, and she's not being stifled. So also, you know, with Jeffrey, Jeffrey loops back in there, and he kind of, you know, catches her like, hey, you can't just be going off and, you know, going to gamers' houses, and these people, you know, don't even know these people. Right. So we see Jeffrey kind of swoop in and kind of handle that. So also with Aunt Viv and Uncle Phil have this scene where, you know, they're going back and forth with basically supporting one another, and Phil and this whole line of learning to say less in their relationship. And Phil is reminding her, well, she's reminding him, they're both reminding each other, but I guess Phil was supporting her in her art world career, and you know, he was always saying too much, and she kind of asked him to tone it down. So now he's asking her like, hey, can you tone yourself down, not only with politics but with the family, you know, just kind of support me on this. So I really like that. But there was that scene where he's like, you know, she agrees. She said, I'll do this until after the votes are counted. But he says, that's why I love you. And she looks away. Yeah. Did you see that one?
Oh, yeah.
So, again, another foreshadowing. So what do you think of the dynamic of their whole relationship?
I love it. Ever change. Those two, I mean, that's my girl, Cassie. I mean, they have, and Cassie's not short on opinion. So I love that they threw that element in with Viv, but the back and forth between them is so juicy and so interesting. And if, you know, if you've been in a relationship, if you're older and you've been in a relationship, you know those conversations, you know, hey, you know, this person sacrificed for me here, so I got to sacrifice for them here, and balance things out. And I love that. I love that he said, hey, listen, when you went to those galleries, you know, I was talking sports on, but you told me to tone it down. I did that. So I need you to do that here. And that's not easy to do. It's not easy to ask opinionated person, let alone your significant other, to kind of tone down the opinions a little bit so that you can get to the overall goal, which is to be elected. So, but to her credit, she accepted it. She understands it, because that's the exchange in relationships sometimes. So I like that we're getting these elements in this and fleshing out more and more of the realness of their connection and their friend. I think this relationship, they've done an excellent job, the writers have, of really kind of giving you the levels and the actual genuine care, even when they disagree, the genuine care that they have for each other. So there's a lot of love there for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was also a little reference she made. I don't know if I mentioned this already, but she said, "Look, I already changed my hair."
Yeah.
Which is a
I
big
can't
thing
speak to that. You can speak to that, Nick. I can't speak to that. I don't know.
Yeah, there's Gabrielle Union in the industry. She's come under fire for changing her hairstyle too many times as a Black woman, and she spoke out about that. So that little line was slipped in, which was interesting. So yeah, definitely nice to see the dynamic, and they're communicating with each other. So there is some kind of understanding there. So then we get to this skating rink fundraiser, and there's just a lot going on here. Basically, this is where Will is finding out that Lisa's dad is the chief of police, and he's having this, again, post-traumatic stress disorder. Like, why didn't you tell me? Like, she doesn't understand why he's making such a big deal about it. And then also Aunt Viv is kind of nodding to Uncle Phil, like, say it, say police reform. You have to speak your truth, or you are not going to connect with the people and get voters. So also Aunt Viv has this conversation with Lisa. So they kind of, talk a little bit more about, her losing her mom. And you see there's a deeper connection between them that we'll probably learn more about. So what did you, I also love the fact that this was a skating rink scene. It gave me nostalgia to going as a kid on the weekend. So, there's a lot of stuff going on. What did you think of the scene?
It's such an interesting, symbolically, it's such an interesting place to have this, right? Because what do you do in a skating rink? You just basically go round and round and round. How do you break that? Oh, you skate backwards, or you change the music, or so there's a place to really show your artistry or your creativity or who you actually are in a skating rink by having fun with the music and everything like that. But it's also a place that you can get stuck just going around and around and going through the paces. So I love the symbolism of having that political moment here where he kind of breaks the going around and around that's been going on, because as we find out in episode 5, his campaign manager wanting to have a very middle of the road conservative approach to things that's going to get him elected. Well, here he comes out, it kind of, I think, also pushed by the episode 3, the situation with his fraternity brothers, all of that. It's coming to a head here. Will bring in those people, and the people calling him out and say, what are you going to do about this? This is a real thing. Police brutality, Black Lives Matter, these protests. I love that they're not being afraid to do this. And it's so funny that it's on NBC Peacock, which also did The Apprentice with Trump. So I love that NBC is kind of opening the door to kind of balancing the scales out a little bit more here. So having him talk about it. And then I'll tell you this, Nikki, I sat there for a moment really shocked that he said to fund the police. I just kind of appreciated the guts of the show to bring that up and confront that and speak about it. And I don't think it was done in a way that was kind of shoved in. It feels very organic in the development of Phil finding his own voice as a person who wants to be a DA. What's going to separate him from the pack? So the fact that we had that throughout this scene, I thought was really powerful. And it's ironic. He told Viv to kind of keep it down, and then he was the one that went and said a very opinionated thing right in front of the chief of police. And and I do think Lisa and Viv are going to develop a very strong relationship, almost like a pseudo daughter, pseudo mom, because she has that maternal energy. And now the question is, where is Lisa going to lie as we go forward? Is she going to lie with Carlton or lie with Will, or just go by or walk her own path? Where is she going to go in her own thing? So I love everything that was kind of showed here, and it was gutsy, just a gutsy way to end the show, to end this episode for sure.
Yeah. And with, just again on Will seeing Lisa's dad in the bathroom and just, that scene of being traumatized, it's just, I'm glad that they're showing that, this is something that just stays with someone when they're traumatized in these situations. And, he's having almost like a panic attack, and trying to say, it's just a total letdown for him that someone that he liked, now it's just a vulnerable situation. And we can't forget. Oh, go ahead,
Nikki. I just want to ask and it's fascinating to see the juxtaposition, because you have Carlton's anxiety of being this like singular, almost one of the rare Black kids in this all white school, and what the pressure of that is like, and his dad's pressure on him, his own pressure on himself, and he self-medicates with the Xanax or with the drugs that he's doing. Will having anxieties and stresses and pressures brought on by the situation with the police, the PTSD, and how he's having to just kind of navigate it step by step, piece by piece as it's happening to him. Yeah, certainly the blow up with Lisa was an element of that as well, because her dad is chief of police. He's liking a girl who kind of has a connection to the PTSD now. So it's so interesting to explore both of these characters' journeys as they deal with their anxieties. And I just wanted to highlight that.
Yeah, no, that's an important point to make. It's very interesting. Absolutely. And then we can't forget too that Jeffrey allowed Ashley's friends to come to the event. So he's kind of keeping that away from the parents, but he's just being, supportive of Ashley, and that's important too, to hear, she doesn't feel like she has to hide anything.
Right.
I thought that was a nice element. So let's jump into episode 5. I'm just going to slide on it's called, PA to LA, and Trey is now in Bel-Air, and he and Will's mom are already wanting Will back in Philly now that Rashad is dead, as you mentioned. And Hillary's having a going away dinner party with all of her new influencer housemates and family. Ashley is coming out, big surprise there. And Carlton's finding out about Uncle Phil lying for Will and his gun charge. Uncle Phil is pressed at a D-Smoke concert on his police reform comments from the commissioner and Lisa's father, who again is the chief of police. And Carlton is getting his feelings hurt again. He just can't catch a break. So, Philly is calling. What did you think of, Trey and Vi? They're having Vi and Vivian are having this conversation, this FaceTime on why Will needs to stay or come back to Philly.
This is probably my favorite episode of the series. I really, really enjoyed that they dialed into this very real situation that happens with people. Nick, I don't know what your experience was like, but I know when I left for LA, there was, kind of like, why would you go there? What's the thing? And you're breaking away from what you've known for a long time, but you've got to follow your own inner compass. And, we know Will Smith's journey, and I've got his memoir. I'm halfway through reading it. And this idea of what he experienced in making that change. Sometimes you can take it for granted when you're a person who aspires to do these things, that other people struggle and what they have to go through to aspire to do these things and what they leave behind. And so I love that. Remember that first episode, Jazz told him, hey man, just don't let this place change you. Don't forget where you came from. And now that comes to a head here in episode 5 with Trey coming in, and Trey, like, who legitimately loves Will and has missed Will. Now the opportunity with Rashad being killed, the opening is here for Will to come back, and Will, ironically, 5 episodes later now is hesitating about coming back. Actually doesn't want to come back, has conversations with Viv about it, and Viv and Vi get into a bit of interaction, which again lays a little bit of or teases a little bit of whatever happened between them in the past by saying, let's not make it about us. Let's make it about Will. And I love that. And you even have Vivian kind of taking a little bit more of I don't know, because it's more of a motherly role by saying, let's not tell Will, let's let Will decide. And Vi's like, I'm going to tell my son my opinion about his life. So I love that we're getting these strong dynamics all around this idea of wanting to stay, wanting to go. And, sometimes when you stay, you do have to cut these ties. You do have to make these changes. And Hillary tells him, hey, look, it's tough to leave family members. It's tough because she's about to leave her house. She says, but people will get over it. And so I like that they're exploring this, and the dynamic between him and Trey, the battles they have throughout this episode were so realistic, and that you can buy into it. The tears, the emotions, the fights, all of that, and him calling him out at the game, or at the concert rather, all of that just felt so real. I love that they threw that into this dynamic between these guys who clearly care about each other as friends.
Yeah, definitely. And, at that age with Will and Trey, I mean, he must have, have such a raw donut feeling of like, knowing that, it's human nature to want to progress and to have achievements. But that strong pull from Trey of like, what about the team and what about, the block and, yeah, super, super emotional and just, he's absolutely torn, and that's causing obviously again, more anxiety, for him. And, then,
But we also see
oh,
the jealousy, Nikki, right? Like Trey gets a little jealous at the end, calling him the GOAT, all this kind of stuff. We see this once someone starts to kind of elevate. Hater friends all of a sudden become haters. People who used to care about you all of a sudden become envious or jealous, and they hate that you're the one that is achieving in them and they are not, or they don't have that extra thing that gets them to the next level. And that was really exposed in that fight between Trey and Will. And you say the dirtiest things when you're fighting with your best friends. It's unfortunate. All the buttons,
Yeah, they definitely went there. The D-Smoke concert was absolutely ruined.
Yeah.
It was like they couldn't even enjoy that concert. Trey was just mean mugging him, and it was just not a good look.
Nope.
But and then also with Vi and Vivian, and again the blended families, and just who knows what's best for who. I think Vi also said, it seems like you're trying to take, be his mom or take the place. So there's something there. So there's something else there between the two of them that maybe we'll find out. But, it just becomes really difficult. Vivian is looking out for Will's best interest and wanting to have him to have all these new connections. And, his mom, it's his mom. Vi's like, I want to raise my son. I'm not done.
Yeah.
So these are just some really, really, serious issues that they're just tough decisions to make in general. But I love all the points that you're making about, just, who is left behind when you're aspiring, and moving to LA. I'm from the East Coast, and you keep in touch, but there's people that you're just not there to pop over. It's you even though you're still close, you just lose an essence of having people in your vicinity to nourish those relationships.
I am going through that now. I went through it moving to LA from the East Coast myself as well, from the DC area, DMV, but like now moving to San Diego, there are LA friends I'm losing touch with because I'm not there to go and hang out with them, go and grab breakfast, dinner, a drink, or whatever. So that just happens, right?
Yeah.
And that's the natural, and the reason we moved is the natural progression of my relationship with my girlfriend. And that's the game, and I love that they confront that here.
Yeah. So let's jump into this dinner party. This wild dinner party. Hillary is celebrating, with her family and all of these influencers. So there's a lot going on at this dinner party. We have Aunt Viv is being, kind of encouraged by one of the influencers that is in the new house that Hillary's going to be going into, that she could actually be an influencer herself. And, lots of conversations being had between Carlton and I'm about to say Coco, Hillary, and lots of new details divulged with Uncle Phil and actually the birth of Hillary and kind of what went on. But what did you think of this influence, the whole setting, and just where it went?
Yeah, I mean, it was an interesting thing to watch from the outside, see all the different kind of influencers. It made me feel old at times. I mean, especially those guys pulling the pranks. That's the thing that I'm like, yeah, that would upset me or unset. So I felt Phil and Viv's distaste for that situation very powerfully myself. But I also like that this is the real world. This is what's happening now. Quickly in our culture here, we have the sex positive conversations. We're having these explorations of people with strong voices who can become influencers. And anybody watching right now, if you've got a strong voice, you got enough people who kind of follow what you do, you can be an influencer. It's not difficult. It's you have to have that thing though, and that's the difference. And certainly, I mean, Hillary comes from Viv, and Viv as we found in last episode, she ain't quiet about her opinion. So
Yeah.
you could absolutely be an influencer. So I like that they're kind of had this party to kind of open the door to kind of touch base with what's going on in the pop culture influencer situation. And you can go one way or the other. Some people probably watch this who are much younger than us, who loved it. And there's some people who probably watch it like, oh, this seems like there's trouble here brewing because of the different antics and stuff like that. But I like that they had this scene. It lets Phil and Viv also realize what Hillary is walking into with these influencers and what have you. And we had that nice moment where that guy talking to Phil, and Phil said, and Phil gives his response about Hillary, which we find out later was being recorded. And he goes, man, I wish you were my dad. Yeah. But then he's laughing about the prank. So it's just like, it's an interesting dynamic that they have with all of these influencers. But I enjoyed the scene for what it showed you. Yeah.
Yeah. It was very TikTok 2022.
Yes.
You know, that's the best way to sum it up. Yeah, I was just kind of like, okay, yeah. And then I'm like, wait, why are her parents even having dinner with all of these, you know, pranksters and whatnot? But it makes sense, Uncle Phil was, kind of, talking to Viv about the accomplishments of the influencers. So he's looking at it from the business perspective that these are high rollers themselves. And, he got like a little bit of taste of, it's not this kind of the same, there's definitely, the pranks going on and all of that, which, Uncle Phil and Viv, even Hillary was shocked, like, turn these cameras off. Yeah. So it was even a lot for her. And then Ashley is asking one of the influencers about sexual fluidity and, labels. So that was really great to have that in there. So she, there were a lot of conversations. And then also, not Carlton, but Trey drinks a little bit too much and basically divulges to Carlton what really happened with Will coming to Bel-Air, and it doesn't go well. Carlton, you could just see like the eyebrows going up, like Scrooge, like I have something on him now. Yeah. And then so what did you think about that part? And then having a conversation with his father. Yeah.
Well, it's so funny. The show, the will they or won't they is those two guys. And that is not anywhere else in the show. It's those two guys. And I know we've talked about it on previous reviews, like when are they going to get together as friends? When are they going to be friends? Every time they come close to coming to some kind of detente or compromise, something comes up to kind of shatter it and send them back into their corners. And certainly this information, which Carlton kind of suspected a little bit, like there was some kind of shenanigans here. It really was a hell of a reveal by Trey and maybe even on purpose to kind of maybe undercut Will a little bit, kind of maybe do his clumsy way of shattering the connection between them or cutting that cord so that Will can go back to Philly. Who knows what's going on? Because remember, these are kids, these are teenagers. They're not emotionally intelligent about a lot of things. They're still figuring it out. So maybe in his clumsy way, Trey kind of revealed this. And of course, Trey underage drinking and whatever. So, but he revealed this to Carlton, and Carlton now confronts his dad with it. And now Carlton feels like, as I said earlier, now Carlton feels like he has the high ground, the superior ground on his dad by going like, look, you told me to follow the rules and do all these things and be ethical in this way. And look, you're the guy who did this. And now I can't look at you the same way. And then uses that against Will as well to kind of get Lisa back in good graces with him and alienate Will from Lisa. So, I mean, it makes it hard to like this guy. It does, but he's clearly lost himself because his power dynamic has completely been shaken since Will arrived. And so he's trying desperately to find some way to get back on level ground where he feels powerful again in his life. So as much as I I can understand it. It still makes it difficult for me to like him as a person. So
Yeah. I think I'm going to show this slide of Ollie in this performance.
He's
In the
doing so
scene.
good. Oh my
I
God.
mean, these looks that he's giving, like, dad, like, did you really do this? It's just so hilarious to me. But yeah, so it's really hard to like him, but because Ollie's just, performing so well in this
Yeah.
role, it's just like you just love this character.
Mhm.
And yeah, so definitely I feel Trey dropped that information on purpose a little bit. And yeah, the alcohol definitely assisted with that.
Yeah.
And, Uncle Phil basically said to Carlton, look, don't divulge this because it's not just going to affect Will, it's going to affect, in other words, the family.
Yeah.
And Carlton's like, oh, of course not. I'm not going to say anything. And what does he do? Like 2 seconds later, he's over there, like he has this bone over Will, stay out of my way. And basically just stay out of my way. I've got you. So he wasted no time. And
Yeah, and using the power. Yeah.
yes. And that dynamic with him and Lisa, he basically, I was gonna mention that later, but he basically thinks he has another chance with Lisa now that he's got Will out of the way. But so so I have to talk about this juicy scene with Aunt Viv and this smooth art gallery owner played by Michael Ealy, who's known for Barbershop and Too Fast, Too Furious and Think Like a Man. So he's saying, these quotes, I quote, I can stare into your paintings for hours. He said, show me what you got and let me be the judge. I mean, are they setting us up here for, Aunt Viv to fail?
Well, no, I don't think so. I don't think so. But they're throwing that element in there that she's a wanted woman, and maybe Phil gets caught up with this campaign down the road, and it becomes something where Viv is kind of questioning things because she's feeling neglected or whatever. I don't know. We'll see. The show kind of zigs when you think it's going to zag. So I appreciate that about the show. But throwing this element in there is really, really interesting. But it also shows another sexual politics element here, where you have a guy who's got who's got status, and she is kind of trying to find her voice again as a painter. He's taking advantage as a person of power of her a little bit by coming in hard. He knows she's married. He knows it's crazy that he thinks he's going to try to seduce the woman who's might be the next DA, the wife of the next district attorney. So it's an interesting play by him, but we're looking at sexual politics and power dynamics here, and we're becoming more aware of this, of men in positions of power using that power to seduce or push or force women into positions that they don't want to be in. And so we're seeing that play out here. So as smooth and as cool as Michael Ealy is, and he is, trust me, that's a good looking guy. It's tough to resist that guy. Even I say that he's tough to resist that guy. I like that they throw him in this to make her desirable, to make her be in that position. But then I think there's going to be a moment where she turns that around on him and says, hey, don't do this to me. And because you've done this to me, now you're going to really highlight my stuff. So again, the switching of the power dynamics once we hit a line. So I anticipate Viv will turn this moment around on him to her benefit.
Absolutely. It was just very interesting to see, and some of the reactions on Twitter, like, wait, what? Wait, where is this wine coming from? But absolutely, Aunt Viv is not to be played with. She's absolutely going to stand her ground. And don't have that on my bingo card of her being exploited.
No.
So definitely. So with Ashley, she has this conversation with Hillary on just coming out. I think Hillary uses the word, "Oh, you're gay," and she says, "Well, no, not really." She's just saying she hasn't ruled out boys, but she just, expresses to her that she's having these feelings, which was really great that she can confide in her sister. She doesn't want her parents to know as yet, but Hillary was just super supportive, and it was really nice to see that this young girl is able to express herself and not to hide, and then it just really amplifies. You makes you think of the children or the young teens that have to hide this, and they're alone, and there is no one to talk to about these problems, and then it just kind of spirals downward. So really great that they're having this open conversation about about herself.
Yeah, I can already see the explosions of anger if this was a primetime show on one of the main networks, having a 12-year-old, first of all, have a 12-year-old having a conversation with a sex positive or sexually fluid person in the dinner party, and then another conversation here with Hillary talking about her crush on Lucia. Be like, oh, they're influencing people to feel this way. No, it's talking about the truth and showing that these people, the people who have these feelings and who are navigating these feelings, the fact that you're able to talk about them is so important for our world and for our new generations coming through, to be able to speak about this stuff so they can find their way, their voice, and which direction they want to go, rather than being forced into a certain direction and then feeling terrible about themselves for years and years to come. So that's the kind of thing that I think is really important that the show highlights as well. You know, again, the bravery and the guts of this show to bring up these topics, bring up these subjects, and the incredible ability of these actors to bring such tenderness and depth to these conversations, I think is just fantastic. I mean, Hillary is great here. Coco is great here in receiving what Ashley's giving to her, and then, you know, kind of and still showing that she's just a little bit, shocked by it slightly, but still guiding her in the positive way to figure things out. And yeah, we need to break that stigma of the sexuality stuff, because young people need to feel like they can speak about it and be heard, and they will make their decisions, as we all have in our lives, when the time is right. So I like that the show kind of opens the door with that.
Yeah. At first, as a mom, I'm like, oh, 12. Wait, how old is she? Google, wait, and I'm like,
I'm sure.
But then, as you said, it all makes sense. It's like, and then you have to think about what we just see in the news over and over again. With young people hurting themselves and, self-harm and things like that.
Yeah.
And, you're absolutely right. If this was on a different network at a different time, they would be up in arms at at 12, that number. But, or just in general, if someone talking about sexual fluidity, but definitely really, really great that the show is tackling all these tough subjects. And, it's not just dropping buzzwords. They're really developing the characters really well. And it's just like 360. So Carlton's disappointment, this slide here, this scene, this visual, there's a lot in this look, this look right here between both of them. Carlton is obviously, distraught with, thinking he had this alone time with Lisa now that he got Will out the picture. And, he makes a move on Lisa, and she's like, no, like she just shuts him down. What do you think is behind that? I mean, this is some serious, this isn't like, oh no, we're not dating anymore. That's kind of like how it kind of happens, but this is so much deeper. Like there's something more, in their connection or with her mom or what,
Yeah.
Sure.
This might surprise some people, but young men don't know how to deal with their emotions, and they just kind of get into these situations.
Educate us.
They get into these situations, and clearly Carlton still cares about Lisa. That's been prevalent throughout the first 4 episodes, but here, this is really dangerous territory that he's walking into, because Lisa has opened the door to his assistance on her mom's memorial or tribute or charity that they're working on. And Carlton, by attempting to kiss her when they have that moment, it now looks like he used that situation, something really devastating in Lisa's life, to try to get what he wanted, which is back together with her. Now, all's fair in love and war. It's not really true, but certainly the how can I say this? The difficult road you walk sometimes in accepting the end of a relationship, and then the moments you kind of talk yourself into where you think you're doing the right thing, you think you're doing something good, and then you think you see a sign and the sign gets shut down. That's a tough moment. Certainly Lisa now probably feels like, oh, did Carlton just use this whole thing and my mom's death just to kiss me or to get back together with me? And Carlton feels, oh damn, like she really doesn't want to be with me. Will really kind of put the division between us even more. So this could be a moment where Carlton either grows or Carlton gets even more angry at Will. And the show has shown us that he goes towards the angry at Will more than anything else. So it looks like he's very angry. Once again, his power dynamic is thrown off. Once again, he thinks, well, if I get the goods on Will, now Lisa will come back, which is a really limited approach to thinking. So I think Carlton's going to have to have a come to Jesus moment at some point down the road here and realize the damaged path that he is walking and the hurt he is going to cause to a lot of people that he supposedly cares about. And I hope the show has that scene for him, because he is, as you said, a very interesting character, and it's very well acted. So I'm hoping we get a really awesome come to Jesus moment with him.
Yeah. And then, he was, abusing drugs, and
Yes,
another layer of him not thinking clear, added on, because that is not the right time when you're talking about the memorial for a young girl's mom, to try to make a move on her. So absolutely, just really well acted. They just, this like the visual that I showed, there's just so much emotion in both of those characters. So they really did a great job with that scene. And then Will's distraught, with Trey finally leaving. Again, more anxiety on, it wasn't even his decision. Trey just left. So he's just got to, he's left to grapple with, what he's going to do. So what did you think of, when Trey finally did leave?
Yeah, as a guy who's had these fights with friends in the past, these moments, these emotional moments, because as I said, men aren't really good with them. We're getting better, but we weren't good with our emotions for a long time. Expressing them and all of that, and seeing, I thought this was a really beautiful moment between them, and not only in a tender way, I mean in an honest way. Like he's about to he's walking towards that car. And he stops and he says, why would I stay, Will? What's going to, so essentially he's reaching out to him, like saying, look, why would I stay? What's the point? And Will has to explain to him his point of view. And Trey, I think in a small way gets it. But Trey also says to him, I can't go on this path with you. I can't go on this journey with you because I don't have the desire to do the things that you do. I don't have this life. Doesn't feel like a cool life to me. And there are people, and people need to understand that there are people who look at the rich life and go, no, man, that's not for me. And Trey is very much about his community, about where he's from. And so there's a power in that. And that's why it's so heartbreaking that Will is very much going in this direction, but Dre can't go with him. Trey's very much going in this direction. And both of them feel the power of those directions. And unfortunately, they can't go and walk the same path together. And so what you're seeing is the breakup of their friendship at a certain level, but hopefully it evolves to a different kind of friendship as the show goes along and they both come to terms. As Aunt Viv said, you guys are both young, you're kids, you're gonna, this is what happens. And this is why you're having these emotions and these fights, but eventually you will find the common ground. And I think it was nice to end their storyline in this particular episode with that interaction between them, because you can tell there's genuine emotion in both the actors doing fantastic job showing their genuine care for each other.
And then, can Trey even go on that journey at all? I mean, this is not his aunt and uncle. And then, he, Will invited him to come back for different time, holidays or whatever. But, that's probably not appealing to Trey to have to go from world to world. And, he's living the high life, and he knows he's always going to have to go back home where, things are kind of broken for him. So, he just not broken, but he just doesn't have these opportunities. So he would rather embrace, his home and his life and his friends, rather than try to exist in a world that, he may not even have, access to. It's like clinging on, and maybe he just wants to be true to himself. Like that's not the opportunities I have. So,
And also the dynamic of the soft, which they brought up, and that's definitely a big thing in the male side of things. This idea of I don't want to be soft. If I come and live out here in this pampered life, I'm going to get soft. I want people to handle myself
Yeah.
back in life, and that's a real thing. I mean, I
Yeah.
dealt with that in my own life for quite some
Mhm.
time, kind of breaking
Mhm.
away, accepting certain things, and like leaving those old ideas behind of what is actual strength, what is actual toughness, what is actual softness, and all of that. And so it's interesting. I love that they threw that element here in their interactions as well, because again, they're young teenagers. To them, that's what they've known. Will aspires for more. Trey finds strength in maintaining those ideas of what is tough in his world, and he thinks he'll sell out or be a sellout if he goes the rich path that Will is walking.
Absolutely. And then also, with Trey, he basically could get, come under fire back home
Yes.
for people that may be jealous seeing him on social media,
Good point.
smoke concerts and stuff like that.
Right.
So Will has this heart to heart with his mom,
Oof.
and he decides to stay. And also Coco and I keep saying Coco, Hillary and Viv hug it out because Viv finally says, she's actually proud of her daughter, and she just instantly hugs her. So the episode ended on a kind of emotional note, but then there's some good stuff there where Will's wanting to live his truth and go for what he wants, and also Coco, Hillary, and Viv having this. I just love Coco so much. Her name's great. So, So, what did you think of this ending?
Oh, I thought it was great to have the two mom endings was great, in different ways, right? One, letting go of her son to let him walk his path. The other, coming closer to her daughter so that she could walk her path more confidently. So both of these things, sometimes you as a mom, Nikki, you can speak this way more than I can. There are moments where you have to hold on, and there are moments where you have to let go. And certainly having that moment with her, Will and Vi, Will and his mom, I mean, it was painful. It was heartbreaking, as again, leaving to LA, to move to LA, leaving my mom behind as a Latino, that is brutal to leave your mom behind. But that sometimes is the path you have to walk, and the separations you have to go through in order to kind of follow where you want to go. And so seeing that kind of play out the way it did, it was so good. And we didn't get Vi, and I was afraid they were going to go with the cliche, like, get all upset and hang up on him. She took it in. She gets it. It's heartbreaking for her. But I also think down the road, I think we're going to get a little battle between them, Vi and Aunt Viv, about this. Maybe Vi accuses Viv of influencing Will. It lays nice groundwork conflict for us later on down the road between those two characters. And then, of course, later, I think Viv did a fantastic job kind of coming to meet Hillary. And sometimes, yes, Nikki, again, you as a mom can speak this better than I can, but sometimes parents, they point out the negative because they think it's already understood that they appreciate all your positives. But the truth is, as a kid, or as a child of, you want to hear sometimes your parents give you the positive stuff as well as the criticism, so that you find the balance. And sometimes parents forget that when it comes to good stuff is important as well.
Absolutely. I can definitely relate to that. Sometimes you just think they know.
Yeah.
And you have this little thing that goes off like, no, remind them, or remind her, or remind him. And so very true. They need to hear it. So, well, I believe that's all the time we have for today. It was a pleasure chatting with you on episodes 4 and 5. And so everyone, please like and subscribe, and please leave your comments. Let us know what you thought of episodes 1 through 5 of Bel-Air, and what are you looking forward to, or if you have any predictions. And it was a pleasure, John. So we'll see everyone next week. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.